I'll Take a Melody, where did that come from? Back in New Orleans, and how that, I was hoping you could take us through that.
Well, I wrote that for a guy named Frankie Miller. He came from Scotland. A very soulful guy, very interestingly put together the way, to say his origin and the way he sounded when he sang. And I wrote it for him to sing. And it was, the song is about whatever comes your way. Music has a healing effect. I'll take a melody and see what I can do about it. That not only means to write a melody, but just to take one on to your heart. And because someday all will be known, but not yet. So in the interim, rely on such as music.
Right, man. Oh, that's gorgeous, man. I'm trying to get an understanding. One of the guys, I've interviewed all these session drummers from the West Coast, like Hal Blaine and Jim Keltner and these guys, and but the one guy that I talk about, I'm trying, or is Earl Palmer, and I'm trying to figure out when the first time you guys connected, and the kind of music you were playing at that time.
Earl Palmer, king. He could certainly wear a crown now. Of course, he was the guy. He was one of the early guys who put us on the map. As you probably know, he played behind those early Dave Bartholomew recordings, and then on to the Richard era, and of course even before that Roy Brown. But through all of those Tutti Fruitis and Good Golly Miss Molly's, that was Earl Palmer before he migrated out to California. Of course, when he went out to California, he did even greater things out there, because he was in the midst of greatness out there, and they recognized who he was right away. I was on about 17 when I first played in the studio with Earl Palmer. I was called in to play on the recording session, and that clan of Earl Palmer, Red Tyler, and Lee Allen, Frank Fields on bass, Justin Adams on guitar, that was the sort of studio clan. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time that I played a song with Earl Palmer. Of course, I knew about him long before then, so I was in hog's heaven, you might say.
Like, you guys felt this, just wanted to feel the music. I mean, there was
no... Oh, yeah.
Right, I mean, because it was so great, Mr. Toussaint, it's just such an honor to talk to you, man, because what a trendsetter you were for so many of the cats that I've interviewed on my program. And I just, I wanted you to spend a minute talking. You can relate it to the current tour with the Preservation Hall Band, or just in your life, the qualities of effective leadership, unorthodox leadership. What are some of the traits that you can pass along, the wisdom about leadership to future children?
Well, for one thing, if I was speaking to future musicians, young people who are interested, I'd always say, try and expose yourself to as much of what has already gone by. Not that you have to live there daily, but try and expose yourself and surround yourself with positive people and good people, mm-hmm. and harbor good thoughts, for one thing. All that is a reflection of what's in your reservoir when you begin to present your music or write your music or deliver it in any way. And again, there's so much to be learned about exposing yourself to some of the things that has happened before you. That has always been a proven gift to go back. Even the earliest jazz musicians, they used to go back even to Bach, mm-hmm. and Brahms, to collect as much as what has happened in your field as possible. And of course, practice, and don't let the applause confuse you too early. And it's all about the journey, because it's a forever journey.
at a certain point in your career, you had to really advocate for yourself as a black musician in New Orleans to get copyright. Correct me if I would like you to just talk about the intestinal fortitude that it took to overcome. You know, part of my show is about inspiration. And to me, that's an inspiration, is that you were able to gain copyright at that time. And I wanted to know what you did at that time to get through that, because it must not have been easy.
Music business wasn't always taken as big a business as it is now. In fact, it wasn't taken as business at all to some musicians, because some of us were so busy having a good time playing music, we didn't think business. But business was going on and getting started to be big even then. So many odd and strange things happened back there. Like early on, I can remember writing songs, and when the song would probably finally be released, there'd be 4 or 5 other names on there with my name.
Mm-hmm.
I must say that I was naive enough to, if not naive, I was grateful enough to be glad to be out at all. So, and also by music business not being taken as seriously, some of the people who was talent scouts and getting music done could not afford to pay the other peripherals that it took to make it, like the studio owner or the engineer. So sometimes they used to say, well, you can share in the royalties, so if it happens, you can earn some keep that way, because I can't afford to pay you for your services now.
Right.
So I understood that very early. So even when I saw that happening, I didn't take that too much as an offense for myself, because I understood that this is the way that to get this out there, and if it takes that, I wanted music so badly till it was fine with me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even frown upon it. I was very glad to be doing what I was doing, and if this is what it took at that time, and being a young guy, that was fine with me. So I truly understood it, and it wasn't that people were crooks or anything. It was some good people, many times and most times, involved with me, that maybe other names might wind up on something, because that's what it took to have them involved by whoever was the person hiring them all. But that wasn't very long-lived by me. But I'm saying that to say that did happen with many people, and it happened even with me. But very soon I got with a company that I became their permanent party, and my music and copyright, at least royalties, was handled properly. It was written by me and only me, and it would come back that way. So I enjoyed that very early on, and I could get on with making up music.
But I'm just trying to get back to this idea of feeling. You know, I went back. I opened up about the burlesque clubs, because I feel like there was like a looseness. There was a blues within the music that came from the street element of the music.
Oh, yes.
You know, and I wanted you to talk about that.
Well, definitely. And being born and raised in New Orleans, I was full of the nourishment of the New Orleans feel and everything about it. Music seeping up out of the street, feels like it. And of course, we did have a gentleman who was way ahead of most others, Dave Bartholomew. Though we were having a good time as kids, like myself and many others, right along in my age, Dave was a bit older and already in business and making, selling thousands and million sellers from time to time. So he was a good influence on us. But as far as the music, we heard a lot of gospel, a lot. And I must say, as a boy, I heard a lot of hillbilly music on the radio. And when I started playing piano, I thought if you played piano, you should be able to play everything you heard a piano player sing. So I didn't know that you're supposed to specialize yet. But I do know that I had a definite love for boogie woogies and blues. Late at night, I would hear a lot of blues on the radio, and that just was so soulful. And gospel music, especially Baptist Sanctified, that was magical and so rich, because because it was done for its own purpose, not to be sold or anything like that. It was a very rich musical scene where I came up. When the music that the people in the gospel was making in the Indian, Mardi Gras Indians, their music wasn't made to be commercial records. They weren't making their music. They was making it because of the subject matter. So, of course, they were singing strictly from the soul with no ulterior motive about whether I'm going to make a hit or not. They just sung because in the direction that the spirit moved them. And that means the blues, the boogies, the rock and roll wasn't said like that yet, but in the lyrics you'd hear rocking and rolling.
How long have you known? Did you ever play with Ellis Marsalis?
Well, we both play piano, so
that's right. No, but I mean, I heard. I talked to a great keyboardist out in Los Angeles, and he remembers. He said it was crazy because he saw you on stage with Dr. with Mac Repanak. So like it's not unheard of with Toussaint.
Yeah. Well, me and Ellis we've been on the stage together at Tipitina's in New Orleans, and that was wonderful because Ellis is just a marvelous musician in every sense of the word. Intellectually, soulfully, street in every other way. But yes, we have played together a couple of times only. One was at Tipitina, and one was at a short video we did of a Professor Longhair song, and he or I never knew what happened to that piece. But yes, I did play along with Ellis, and I felt I was among royalty.
I'll have to send it to you in an email. It's just a brilliant thing. But the point is that you came up there and you had to rewrite so the tape deck you used batteries were slow, and so everything was written out like if it was supposed to be in G, it was actually in F sharp. And Howard was like, everybody knew the next day that it was kind of off, but the band was like, we will rewrite this tonight, and we'll just play it in this key. And at that point, I was like, wow, these guys, you were a mentor to them, but also like a bridge in that sophistication of being able to play on the spot all the time. And I just was wondering if you could, your memories of the Academy of Music and how you actually originally connected with Levon Helm.
Well, it was all about Robbie Robertson. He was the one who called me. Before then, I had arranged the horn for Life is a Carnival and one other song. That was quite a while before the Rock of Ages album, which I went up and did, what we're speaking of now.
You did Life is a Carnival?
Oh, yes.
Oh, man. Bless you. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, but so Robbie, okay, I'm interested in this connection here.
Robbie Robertson found me in New Orleans, and he wanted me to come up to write horn arrangements for a couple of songs, and I went and met him at the Gramercy Park Hotel, in fact, in New York. And it was Life is a Carnival was the song, and I got right to it. And I did. It was a very interesting thing that happened when I first heard it, and it was quite different music. And I would say it's not just different from my music, but different from other things that were out there. And when I first heard that intro, it was kind of hard to place exactly where the one was. And I thought, how wonderful! Let me hurry up and start writing before I find out where the one is, because then I might get too stock. I don't want to be stock. And but anyway, I did. That's the first thing I ever did. But then I wrote the arrangements for Life is a Carnival and one other song, which escapes me now. And it was much later that I went back and did the album, what we are speaking of now.
Right, well, I mean, so you Life is a Carnival. Were you up at Big Pink for that? And I'm just trying to get the time reference there, because just the idea of bringing in elongating the sound. So Robbie Robertson, when was the first time you met him though? How did he find? Was it through who? How did you guys connect?
Well, that was the first time he found me in New Orleans. I didn't know who he was. Even when I went up to meet him, I didn't know who he was or who they were yet. But he called me in New Orleans. And the way he found me was he called the sheriff department. I don't know how that tied in, but he called the sheriff department, and the sheriff found me and said, "There's Robbie Robertson want to get in touch with you." Well, the sheriff called. I'm glad he hurried up and said what was the nature of his call. But anyway, that was the first time I had heard of Robbie, or even heard of the band, and went up to meet him in New York. And I remember Mike Pollard, I think that's his last name, the guy who played in Bonnie and Clyde. He used to hang out with them at that time, and he was at the meeting that I met with Robbie. And there with Robbie was Levon Helms, who was a marvelous person.
Can you talk about can you talk about your relationship with Levon and any musical collaborations? Did he come to Toussaint?
Well, he came down to New Orleans, but he didn't record in Toussaint. But when I met him during Life is a Carnival time, we hit it off right away. For one thing, he was just so very glad that I was from the South. For one thing, that was a biggie with he and I.
Mm-hmm.
So we dearly loved that, and we played on it quite a bit. And his playing was so much his very own, like no other drummer. He has nothing to do with any other drumming or drum style. It's his very own, and it talks very loudly. But he was a very sweet guy, and also the way he had a whole way of life that evolved around him. He was a nucleus of a way of life. There were satellites that went around him that was absolutely wonderful. But anyway, about the Life is a Carnival.
Yeah.
I went back up much later to do that, and what happened is my bag got lost. I had written arrangements in New Orleans, but my bag had gotten lost at the airport. Someone picked up the wrong bag. The bag that I picked up looked just like mine. And when I got all the way to Woodstock, out there, I discovered that I had the wrong bag.
Oh, my.
There was no way to retract that, so they gave me a cabin out in the woods, out in the trees. Those trees all around, and I had a cabin with all windows with no shades on them, a long room, and one room in the back where I put on a pair of pajamas and began writing these arrangements over and over again. And that was the best thing that could have happened, because I was writing these arrangements then where I should have been writing them, in the place where they were created, up in that part of upstate New York. And it snowed outside, and it was absolutely beautiful, and all went very well, I'm glad to say.
That just floored me, man. That's an incredible. I wanted to ask you about this. Like, what you and Levon got off on the South. Can you? But I mean, as I'm from New York, I live in Arizona. I want you to talk about that importance of being from the South. Why is that significant for you? Why is it played up by you guys?
Well, I guess it was played up because Levon he was so happy about it. And it's something that I didn't think about very much, but apparently he thought about it. Mm-hmm. And I liked the way that felt, communicating with Levon. For one thing, I like the way he sounds speaking, but the zeal he had about where we are from and about the music. And every time he talked, it was with a joy and a zeal about it. And I found it so comforting to be with Levon. Very comfortable.
Do you feel when you look back at what is Toussaint today? What do you have going on there now?
Toussaint is no longer. Katrina took all of the nourishment out of Toussaint. So Toussaint ended with Katrina.
Wow.
We had a lot of wonderful things there. Of course, LaBelle and Ramsey Lewis, Eric Gale, and just so many wonderful people. Dr. John as well.
Eric Gale?
Oh, yeah. I produced an album called A Touch of Silk on Eric Gale.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me? That's so cool.
Yes. In fact, I wrote the song, A Touch of Silk. But he was a wonderful guitarist. And he came down and spent time in New Orleans as we did that. And, of course, Paul McCartney recorded Venus and Mars album in New York, and I played on a couple of sides.
You know, there's a great live Little Feat show where Paul Barrere is trying to remember some of the songs in Lowell George that you've written. And, you know, one of them's Working in a Coal Mine and Riverboat, and I to me, man, all those casts are the guys that I've gone after. You know, I was born in '78. I was born way after this period of time. So for me, this is promoting that love. That's really, at the end of the day, Mr. Toussaint. I just want you to talk about the importance of love, how it correlates to group music, that holistic.
Oh yeah.
Because that is the key. I just think that you guys are often, you communicate through your instrument. So I want you to take the floor on that.
There was, and from a musician, from Lowell George, he's like the epitome of the love in the music. His love and respect for the music was just phenomenal, and so upfront at every moment, at every time, and so darn hip. I mean, I don't know anyone on the planet who was any more hipper than Lowell George. However, he also had the wisdom of a much older being.
Mm-hmm.
He was really a kind-hearted guy, but it was all about his heart and love first. There was a time and a moment in my life when we were on tour together with Lowell George right after Southern Nights, and I had a real down moment, but he gave me, and he was a bit younger than I, but he gave me some comforting words that I badly needed at just the right time, and it was just enough. And I'm forever grateful for that, and for him to be such a young and hip guy, but to have that kind of soul and spirit and care. So,
what did he say? What did he say?
I can't tell you.
I respect it completely. It is beautiful to bounce back, having younger people that are sages. I think that's actually extremely fascinating. I mean, how has the music industry? Where do you the music industry for you? I mean, are you able to basically create your own stuff, or how? And how has it changed? Because it seemed to me the chronicling of the period that I love so dearly was there was a market. It seemed that producers really kind of understood the craftsmanship of the musicians and allowed that freedom within the studio. You hear that within the music. And I wonder if you noticed a certain period of time within the music that there was a noticeable change. And whether we I've pinpointed but I'd like to ask you, sir.
Well, yes, definitely. I'm not one to say what's for the better or for the worse, but change, oh yes. And there's some very obvious elements. For one thing, technology is always speed, and as a new technology would come, even the pace of the next begin to speed up, and it's at an all-time high even now. technology had a lot to do with everything about the cycles of the music, even the tuning of the instrument, the tempos of the instrument. And I remember I heard you say something about click tracks even.
Mm-hmm.
But technology and the recording apparatus and the peripherals that goes around the music, and also television and the medium that could turn the whole world onto the same thing at the same time was another element. It sort of put everyone into one great big bowl as opposed to section and this section and that section. And also it could turn it all on at the same time. So sometimes identities begin to be unimportant. It's just trend. Trend became more important. A worldly trend, a national trend became more important than this area and that area and the other. And again, I say these things are not necessarily better or worse.
I really, I'll tell you, I'm gonna borrow that from you if that's okay, because I like that. It's a very, just not making a judgment, But
yeah, those things had quite a bit to do with it. And again, I say even the tuning of instruments, because things became so. You read a meter to get things done, whereas you used to read your heart. And then some of that, what you found in the tuning, it's what made you you. But after a while, we begin to look at a needle, and when it comes up, everyone sees that same perfectly A440, and now we're ready to go. And I'm not saying that it would be good to play auto-tune, but auto-tune isn't always auto-tune.
Explain. Yeah, all right. I really, for myself, I think I love that saying, but what meaning is that? What does that mean?
Well, it's just that once you begin to operate on this very thin, straight line, and that's what now we're ready to go. You're ready to go because that dictated that it's ready to go. Now, that is correct that it is totally in tune, but if you're not careful, your life can become that way, your life of music. But I think everyone, of course, should always tune up and tune up perfectly. But I'm saying the difference is when it became a thin rule, and the tempos never move, and it's more important to stay in tempos than if something decides you need to speed up a little bit here, a little bit there. But again, I'm not saying it was better or worse. I'm just saying that is a difference in what happened. I love what's going on now because with the technology as it has moved, it's like trash in, trash out. What are we doing with it? And I think the young people who are making music now with all of the wonderful technology is using it to its best and get wonderful music in the staircase of our evolution.
Is there a marketplace for it, or has that, because I mean there were so many, you had your own record label. Can you talk about that early incarnation of that label? To me, that is the existence of a period of time when the cost of living in America balanced out perfectly with the middle class and even upper middle class. And to me, it's like, this is just brilliant that you guys cooked up that New Orleans label.
Well, our record label was, if you're speaking of, I'm not sure whether you're speaking of Minute or whether you're speaking of
Minute.
Okay, Minute was Larry McKinley and Joe Banishak, and of course I was the music person. One was a disc jockey and one was a distributor. That was a fine time. We had a wonderful time. Again, they were the business folk, and I was all about making music. Fortunately, they were honest people with me, fortunate enough to be connected with them early on, and got off to a good foot in the business. Just during the days of mother-in-law and stuff like that. We had a very good time back there. Later on, I got with Marshall Seahorn during the Meters days and Lee Darcy's days, and with Sansu Records and Toussaint Studio. And Marshall was a go-getter kind of person. But he was the business person, and I was, again, making music. I'm a music person far more than business. But I'm glad I had enough luck or either whatever it takes to surround myself with good people.
Yeah, no, I think that it is the looking back on your creative career as it still evolves. When did you have the biggest growth in your life? I mean, I've come to realize at 36 that, like I'm going through a huge growth spurt now. And I think it's important because society also will put you in that box where it will say, you're supposed to be at a certain point here, a certain point there. But you ride that roller coaster of life, and you tap into your true nature, and you take off. And you're already on the. You've already climbed the mountain. You're over, man. But I'm up, and I'm getting there. I see it, and I want other people to see it too. So I want you to talk. Life Force from Mr. Toussaint. Yeah.
Well, the best I can do with that is I remember being 14 years old, and I turned I took a moment on my birthday. I turned to the left of the piano and sit on the stool, and I thought that I will check every four, and I check with me and report to this 14-year-old how am I doing. So that meant at 24, 34, 44, 54. I always checked them. Of course, the last one was 74. As far as high points and things like that, I can't notice any high point. I remember high things, but the points was it perhaps is because I told this 14-year-old I would report to him. Even after all of this time, this feels like a few days later, because I am so in love with this profession that chose me. I wake up in the morning in a hurry to get to it. I write all the time. I collect inspiration everywhere, and I do music all of my waking hours usually. And I'm having a wonderful time in it. And again, it's that journey. And I'm just very grateful. And for the outcomes of whether things go well or not, I'm not sure what well is, because I've always had such a good time doing what I'm doing. So I couldn't measure it by anything else other than I'm just grateful to be doing what I'm doing every day and want to do.
Do you feel like you understood, what was your understanding of Congo Square?
Oh, Congo Square. Well, we know about the slave blocks and all that.
Well, I'm really curious. I just want to know about the communication of it aspect, and then also, was it in fact, something where once slavery, they cracked down they bought it from the French in the Louisiana Purchase. I really, this to me is a very interesting thing. I would just like to know that history, how well it's understood, do you think also? And is it significant?
Yeah. I couldn't say that I am any more versed on it than anyone else who read whatever is written about it. Of course, that.
No, you don't have to preface it anymore. We all take you for that word, sir.
Yeah, but I just know it historically like anyone from anywhere who ever read about it again, because it was long before my time. But that, like everything else, I think it's a part of the romance of getting this great country started rolling. So I see it as a very important part, and it doesn't have to be forgotten or thrown away. It's just it takes so many elements to create such a grand place in which we live. Congo Square was one of them. So I kind of like the idea that, yes, there was a Congo Square. Since it was, we know about it. And from there comes a whole lot of wonderful things happen because of the endurance of people who lived through that period.
Exactly. And I'm just trying to figure out, in your upbringing, was that something that was passed along to you more definitively than it is as we get farther away from that time?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about Congo Square until I was old enough to decide to hear something about it.
Right. So tell me what like for your creativity, like you said up at the cabin, you wrote out all those charts for the performance in Rock of Ages. When you think of Tucson or you think of Arizona, did any creativity ever occur in the state of Arizona?
No, I never think about it because it's quite a far removed from Toussaint.
Wow. But I mean, can you talk a little bit about the kind of show it's going to look like?
Is that where you're from, Arizona?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to run this interview tomorrow live on the radio, on my radio show. So,
well, my little pun, trying to be humorous, was sometimes some folks ask me Tucson like it's related to my name.
No, because when I interviewed Mac Rebenak, he was always talking about the influence of the beautiful swamps and the forests and the trees in the South. So, like, I know you guys most of the time you get off on imagery. So I know you wrote a whole bunch of songs from living in New Orleans, but I just wonder if anything ever inspired you in Arizona, anywhere,
Oh, well, I like everyone. Most people love Arizona. There's something about it that seems large. But I don't know a lot about Arizona. But I feel the same way as many people that I hear when you say Arizona. And the first name you think of is Tucson, Arizona. And again, I say that I made that small humorous.
No, I got no. But you think people think of Tucson before Phoenix?
Oh, well, yeah. How about Phoenix? Yes, Phoenix. Well, I must say that song helped Phoenix out a lot.
Yeah.
By the time I get to Tucson, yeah.
Did you?
I know what you mean. But I think of course, I think of Tucson, Arizona, because it does have a ring somewhere near my name. So I when I think of Arizona, I think of Tucson first, then Phoenix and wherever else.
Did you collaborate with Isaac Hayes?
Oh no, not at all. But I went on his radio show and I knew Isaac Hayes.
You knew Isaac. You brought up by the time I get to Phoenix. I know I'm familiar with his name just popped into my head. But did you ever collaborate with the West Coast soul guys like Barry or any of those? Like, I mean, because you were a Titan, but at the time that was just the regionalism. Like when you talk about the South, Levon being happy to be part of the South. Part of that was because the rest of the band was from Canada. I'm sure he liked that, but also I mean, you guys still stuck in your home bases, And there was more of I don't want to say brother, but there was just these regional pockets of music that were just dwelling at this time. But did you ever Did you ever cross those other cats like, Bill Withers or Booker T or any of those cats? Like, I mean, you must have crossed paths with them.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I certainly did run into guys like that, and like I said, even with Isaac Hayes, I remember when he was really hot, and he was quite a movement. I was highly impressed by him. Also, he had a radio show in New York after his heyday, and I appeared on his radio show. We had a lot in common, of course, and Booker T, of course, and of course Billy Preston, who just I think was a phenomenal entity on the planet. Yeah, I've come in contact with those guys, Steve Cropper and all of them from time to time. Yes, it's always been delightful.
Yeah, no, it's been delightful to talk to you. I feel like there's a few further things that we didn't get to, but it's Halloween. I got to go take my kids trick or treating. Is there a chance we can set up part 2?
Well, sure, at some point, yes.
Should I just how should I connect with you?
Well, the same way you did today with my assistant, Alice.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I will. It was really an honor to talk to you, and what is the best venue to see your band in? Like, for instance, this is a renovated old Fox Theater that you probably played in many times. So it's acoustically very beautiful. But I mean, like would a bowling alley be? I mean, I want like some gut bucket places too. But I mean, where does your band sound the best?
Well, I don't play very often with my band. So, and whenever I do play, Jazz Festival is the best place for me and my band. For one thing, during Jazz Fest time, I had 6 or 7 horns, because I like to arrange for horns, of course. My band consists of a normal rhythm section, but no, I don't perform in New Orleans very much at all. So, if you had any inkling of my schedule, whenever I'm out on the road, the few times that I do perform, anywhere is fine with me.
What is your, if do you have a mission on this tour at all? I mean, where do you I mean, you continue to find inspiration living in the moment and creating music at all times. But
this is a wonderful venture, because these guys, the Preservation Hall Jazz Band, on their own, they're just a dynamite representation of what they're doing. And for my music is slightly different from theirs, but you can definitely tell we're from the same era. So to bring these two musics, I might say, together, I find it quite interesting, and I think based on the audience, it must be a bit quite entertaining. Did you play with Mac Rebenak on the Night Tripper albums? Not doing the Night Trip albums. I first produced him on Right Place, Wrong Time and the Desertively Bonnaroo albums. Those are the two that I produced on him and played piano, of course, a lot on them.
A lot, man. You just nailed it.
But the Night Trip and all that, I love those. That's true Mac himself.
Yeah, whatever you were trying to get across, I mean, right place, wrong time. I mean, did that just pop into your head one day?
Well, he wrote that song. I played the RMI, whatever, and piano on most of the things. But, no, that was his song. He wrote that himself. He's a very fine writer. Very good. We had a wonderful time, and I used the meters, of course, as a rhythm section. And one of my favorite horn players, Gary Brown, on tenor saxophone, and some horns from Miami, in fact, because we went down there to do much of that. Mac himself, Dr. John, wrote that song and wrote not all of them, but most of the songs on the album.
Oh man, that is just. Well, I mean, would you consider one of the great highlights of your career?
What's that, please?
That pocket right there, that early.
Oh yeah.
The early '70s, man. I wasn't even born, but the early '70s, the early '70s to me seems like that was the pocket right there. It was at the best time in music, really.
Well, thank you. We certainly felt good about it. Really felt good about it.
No, because what I'm trying to do is just bridge that gap. All you cats to promote this stuff. It's not about preservation. It's about promotion, and the promotion of values, of leadership, and to.
You certainly seem to have a heart for this music.
Well, actually, it's more about. I mean, if you saw my website and you saw the list of characters, I've done 400. I interviewed Bill Cosby last week.
All right.
And so I'm cooking right now, man. Like I'm trying to put. Like I really like. I just want to get to as many cats. Like I've gotten to Booker T twice, and Billy Cobham is reaching out to me. I mean, things are starting to really grow, man. And it's funny. I've really tried to. You are a hard guy to get a hold of, man. Your assistant does a darn good job. Let me tell you. I think she said she's your daughter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. She does because, but it is. I want to do a part 2 with you. Do you think you're going to be? Are you going to be on the road? I feel like you're on the road this whole month.
Oh yeah, until early November.
Okay, so we'll.
Well, this is already early November, but yes, I'll be on the road quite a bit.
All right, so I'll connect with her again. I'd like to do it before the New Year, though, if possible.
Well, so would I.
Yeah, it was an honor, sir. Happy Halloween, man.
Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.